The lights on the station cut out in the middle of dinner, and I felt something heavy drop against my shoulder before I even understood what was happening. My heart slammed against my ribs. Every muscle in my body locked up. 6 months on this trading station, and I had never once been touched by an alien without warning. That was the rule. That was the one thing I trusted more than anything else out here. Aliens respected distance. Aliens respected silence. Aliens never crossed into your space unless you invited them. That rule broke apart in less than 4 seconds. I was hosting a welcome dinner for a small delegation from a species called the Ashkir. 4 of them, tall, thin, skin like polished metal, faces that barely moved when they spoke. My supervisor had picked me for this dinner because I was careful, because I read briefings, because I never embarrassed the station in front of visitors. I had studied everything I could find about Ashkir customs: reserved, formal, silent. I planned my whole evening around those 3 words. For the first 2 courses, everything matched what I expected. We sat exactly 2 meters apart. Nobody raised their voice. Nobody reached across the table. I felt proud of myself, actually. I felt like I had this whole alien contact thing figured out. Then the lights dimmed for the 3rd course, and the delegate closest to me, a tall Ashkir named Corin, stood up without a single word and walked straight toward me. I did not have time to react. He sat down right beside me, shoulder pressed against mine, closer than anyone had sat next to me in years. Before I could even open my mouth, he leaned his head onto my shoulder, like we had known each other our whole lives. My mind went into full alarm. I thought about every diplomatic disaster I had ever read about. I thought about station security watching through the cameras. I thought I was seconds away from an incident report with my name on it. My hands went cold. My breathing turned shallow. I sat completely frozen, terrified to move, terrified that moving would make things worse. Then the other 3 Ashkir stood up at the same time. One by one, they walked around the table and pressed themselves against each other, and then against me, until I was completely surrounded, pinned in the middle of 4 alien bodies leaning into mine, and they were making a sound. A low, steady hum, all 4 of them together, vibrating through the table and into my chest. I sat there rigid, sweating through my shirt, my mind racing through every possible explanation. Was this an attack? Was this some kind of test? Was I supposed to fight back or stay still? None of my training covered this. None of my careful research had prepared me for 4 alien diplomats treating me like furniture they were allowed to lean on. Corin finally spoke, his voice muffled against my shoulder. "You smell like safety," he said. Warm, steady heart, good. I did not know what to say to that. I still do not fully know what to say to that. The dinner ended shortly after, the Ashkir peeling off one at a time as calmly as they had arrived, like nothing unusual had happened at all. I sat there afterward, alone at the table, staring at 4 empty chairs, trying to process what my body had just gone through. My supervisor found me 20 minutes later and asked how the dinner went. I told her it went fine. I did not know how else to describe it. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt that same sudden weight against my shoulder, that same hum vibrating through my chest. I kept replaying the moment, trying to find the mistake I must have made, the signal I must have sent, that gave them permission to close that distance without warning. The next morning, I asked to speak with Corin directly, hoping for some kind of explanation, maybe even an apology I could pass along to my supervisor so the whole thing could be filed away and forgotten. Instead, he explained something that completely rearranged everything I thought I understood about his people. The distance, the formality, the silence, none of that was politeness, he told me. It was fear, wearing a calm face. Every stranger started as a threat in Ashkir minds, and the 2-meter distance was a wall built for threats. The moment an Ashkir decided you were no longer a threat, that wall did not slowly lower. It vanished completely, all at once, without warning, because there was no version of trust in his culture that still kept its distance. Trust is not something we measure in steps, he said. Either you are a stranger, or you are one of us. There is no version between those 2 things. I asked him when exactly he had stopped seeing me as a stranger, hoping there was some clear moment I had missed, some signal I should have picked up on earlier. He said it happened during the second course, right after I laughed at a joke one of the other delegates made about the station air filters. That was it. One laugh, and 4 alien diplomats decided I belonged to them. You could have warned me, I said, still feeling the ghost of that sudden weight on my shoulder. Would you have believed me? He asked. I thought about my careful research, my 2-meter rule, my confidence walking into that dinner. I admitted that no, I probably would not have believed him. I would have assumed he was simply describing another form of alien politeness, another rule to add to my mental rulebook. We were never being polite, he said. We were being careful. Politeness is for threats. What you experienced last night was not politeness. It was the opposite of it. I sat with that for a long time after our conversation ended. All those months I had spent proudly respecting alien personal space, thinking I understood the shape of their customs, thinking I was the considerate one in every interaction. And the entire time, the structure I respected so carefully was built entirely out of fear, not manners. The real thing underneath it, the actual warmth, did not know what personal space meant at all. It simply arrived, sudden and complete, the moment fear stopped being necessary. Word of the dinner spread around the station faster than I expected. A few of the other human traders found the story funny, imagining me pinned under 4 alien diplomats while trying to keep a straight diplomatic face. Others found it unsettling, worried that other species might behave the same way without warning. My supervisor asked me to write a short report on the encounter, so future hosts would know what to expect. I tried to explain it as clearly as I could, though I am still not sure I captured how strange it felt in the moment, how completely my body reacted before my mind could even process what was happening. A few weeks later, Corin returned to the station for another trade meeting. This time, he did not wait for the lights to dim before crossing the room. He walked straight up to me the moment he arrived, sat down beside me without asking, and rested his head on my shoulder, exactly like before. The same low hum started up almost immediately, steady and familiar this time instead of terrifying. I did not tense up. I did not think about incident reports or station security. I simply let him stay there, feeling oddly calm about something that had completely overwhelmed me only weeks earlier. He noticed the difference immediately. You are not afraid this time, he said. I told him I had learned something about his people since our last meeting. I told him I understood now that the sudden closeness was not a threat, it was an ending to one. He seemed pleased by that, in the quiet, still way his species expressed anything close to pleasure. I think about that dinner often now, whenever a new species arrives on the station, acting careful and distant and formal. I no longer assume that behavior is simply their culture, fixed and permanent. I wonder what lies on the other side of that distance, what invisible test I might already be passing without realizing it. I wonder if I will get warning next time, or if I will simply turn around one evening and find myself surrounded again, pinned under warmth I never expected and never asked for. Corin still visits whenever his trade route brings him through the station. He does not ask before sitting beside me anymore. He simply does it, shoulder pressed against mine, that same steady hum starting up like it never really stopped. I used to think that kind of sudden closeness was something to fear, something that crossed a line I had spent months learning to respect. Now I understand it differently. It was never about crossing a line at all. It was about deciding there was no longer a line that needed to exist between us. And out here, among species who measure trust in entirely different ways than we do, I have learned that the moment the distance disappears without warning is not the moment to be afraid. It is the moment you finally understand you were never truly a stranger at all.